Paramashivam. Om Nithyananda 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 Paramashivam. Om Nithyananda.
If you agree to the following declarations, please say yes loudly. I authentically cognize, which is internally process, understand, and declare the truth. The cosmic energy exists.
Understand and declare the
I
truth.
authentically cognize, which is internally process, understand, and declare the truth. That is now into the Pratiksha Paduka Puja. Is the Chinmaya Vigraha, the embodiment and the representation of the very cosmic energy. I authentically cognize, which is internally process, understand, and declare the truth.
Is Sadguru Vandanam.
That whatever I offer to His Divine Holiness Swamiji during the Pratiksha Paduka Puja will reach the cosmic source of energy directly. I authentically cognize, which is internally processed,
Nithyanandam Paramasukadam Kevalam Jnanamurtim Dvandvaditam Gagana Sadrisham Tattvamasya Dilaksham Ekam Nityam Vimalamajalam Sarvadhi Sakshi Bhutam Bhavaditam Triganarahitam Sadguram Tam Namami Nithyanandeshwara Paramashiva Sarambam Nithyanandeshwari Parashakti Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Salade Trivandre Nitilakta Kasturi Tilakaha Spuranmaladhar Spritakati Kovi Namasanaha Sardano Dustaram Shirasi Panirajam Shashikalam Pradipa Sarvesham Arnagiri Yogi Vijayate
Tam Namami.
The next is the Tattva-chamanam, the ritualistic cleansing.
Om Atmadattvam Shodhayami Swadam Om Vidyadattvam Shodhayami Swadam Om Shivadattvam Shodhayami Swadam
Shivoham. Om Nithyananda Paramashivam. 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 Om Nithyananda Om Nithyananda Paramashivam. 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 Paramashivam. Om Nithyananda 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 Paramashivam.
मृत्योर्मुक्षीमामृतात् स्वाहा ओम त्र्यंबकं यामहे सुगंधिं पुष्टिवर्धनम् उर्वारुकविबन्धनात् ओम त्र्यंबकं यामहे सुगंधिं पुष्टिवर्धनम् झुं सह सहजुम् ओम उर्वारुकविबन्धनात् मृत्योर्मुक्षीमामृतात् स्वाहा त्र्यंबकं यामहे सुगंधिं पुष्टिवर्धनम् ओम झुं सह सहजुम् ओम उर्वारुकविबन्धनात् मृत्योर्मुक्षीमामृतात् स्वाहा ओम त्र्यंबकं यामहे सुगंधिं पुष्टिवर्धनम् ओम झुं सह सहजुम् ओम उर्वारुकविबन्धनात् मृत्योर्मुक्षीमामृतात् स्वाहा ओम त्र्यंबकं यामहे सुगंधिं पुष्टिवर्धनम् ओम झुं सह सहजुम् ओम उर्वारुकविबन्धनात् मृत्योर्मुक्षीमामृतात् स्वाहा ओम त्र्यंबकं यामहे सुगंधिं पुष्टिवर्धनम् ओम झुं सह सहजुम् ओम उर्वारुकविबन्धनात् मृत्योर्मुक्षीमामृतात् स्वाहा त्र्यंबकं यामहे सुगंधिं पुष्टिवर्धनम् ओम झुं सह सहजुम् ओम उर्वारुकविबन्धनात् मृत्योर्मुक्षीमामृतात् स्वाहा त्र्यंबकं यामहे सुगंधिं पुष्टिवर्धनम् ओम झुं सह सहजुम् ओम उर्वारुकविबन्धनात् मृत्योर्मुक्षीमामृतात् स्वाहा ओम त्र्यंबकं यामहे सुगंधिं पुष्टिवर्धनम् ओम झुं सह सहजुम् ओम उर्वारुकविबन्धनात् मृत्योर्मुक्षीमामृतात् स्वाहा ओम त्र्यंबकं यामहे सुगंधिं पुष्टिवर्धनम् ओम झुं सह सहजुम् ओम उर्वारुकविबन्धनात् मृत्योर्मुक्षीमामृतात् स्वाहा ओम त्र्यंबकं यामहे सुगंधिं पुष्टिवर्धनम् ओम झुं सह सहजुम् ओम उर्वारुकविबन्धनात् मृत्योर्मुक्षीमामृतात् स्वाहा ओम त्र्यंबकं यामहे सुगंधिं पुष्टिवर्धनम् ओम झुं सह सहजुम् ओम उर्वारुकविबन्धनात् मृत्योर्मुक्षीमामृतात् स्वाहा ओम त्र्यंबकं यामहे सुगंधिं पुष्टिवर्धनम् ओम झुं सह सहजुम् ओम उर्वारुकविबन्धनात् मृत्योर्मुक्षीमामृतात् स्वाहा त्र्यंबकं यामहे सुगंधिं पुष्टिवर्धनम् ओम झुं सह सहजुम् ओम उर्वारुकविबन्धनात् मृत्योर्मुक्षीमामृतात् स्वाहा त्र्यंबकं यामहे सुगंधिं पुष्टिवर्धनम् ओम झुं सह सहजुम् ओम उर्वारुकविबन्धनात् मृत्योर्मुक्षीमामृतात् स्वाहा ओम त्र्यंबकं यामहे सुगंधिं पुष्टिवर्धनम् ओम झुं सह सहजुम् ओम उर्वारुकविबन्धनात् मृत्योर्मुक्षीमामृतात् स्वाहा ओम त्र्यंबकं यामहे सुगंधिं पुष्टिवर्धनम् ओम झुं सह सहजुम् ओम उर्वारुकविबन्धनात् मृत्योर्मुक्षीमामृतात् स्वाहा ओम त्र्यंबकं यामहे सुगंधिं पुष्टिवर्धनम् ओम झुं सह सहजुम् ओम उर्वारुकविबन्धनात् मृत्योर्मुक्षीमामृतात् स्वाहा ओम त्र्यंबकं यामहे सुगंधिं पुष्टिवर्धनम् ओम झुं सह सहजुम् ओम उर्वारुकविबन्धनात् मृत्योर्मुक्षीमामृतात् स्वाहा ओम त्र्यंबकं यामहे सुगंधिं पुष्टिवर्धनम् झुं सह सहजुम् ओम उर्वारुकविबन्धनात् मृत्योर्मुक्षीमामृतात् स्वाहा ओम त्र्यंबकं यामहे सुगंधिं पुष्टिवर्धनम् झुं सह सहजुम् ओम उर्वारुकविबन्धनात् मृत्योर्मुक्षीमामृतात् स्वाहा त्र्यंबकं यामहे सुगंधिं पुष्टिवर्धनम् झुं सह सहजुम् ओम उर्वारुकविबन्धनात् मृत्योर्मुक्षीमामृतात् स्वाहा ओम त्र्यंबकं यामहे सुगंधिं पुष्टिवर्धनम् ओम झुं सह सहजुम् ओम उर्वारुकविबन्धनात् मृत्योर्मुक्षीमामृतात् स्वाहा ओम त्र्यंबकं यामहे सुगंधिं पुष्टिवर्धनम् ओम झुं सह सहजुम् ओम उर्वारुकविबन्धनात् मृत्योर्मुक्षीमामृतात् स्वाहा ओम त्र्यंबकं यामहे सुगंधिं पुष्टिवर्धनम् ओम झुं सह सहजुम् ओम उर्वारुकविबन्धनात् मृत्योर्मुक्षीमामृतात् स्वाहा ओम त्र्यंबकं यामहे सुगंधिं पुष्टिवर्धनम् ओम झुं सह सहजुम् ओम उर्वारुकविबन्धनात् मृत्योर्मुक्षीमामृतात् स्वाहा ओम त्र्यंबकं यामहे सुगंधिं पुष्टिवर्धनम् ओम झुं सह सहजुम् ओम उर्वारुकविबन्धनात् मृत्योर्मुक्षीमामृतात् स्वाहा ओम त्र्यंबकं यामहे सुगंधिं पुष्टिवर्धनम् ओम झुं सह सहजुम् ओम उर्वारुकविबन्धनात् मृत्योर्मुक्षीमामृतात् स्वाहा ओम त्र्यंबकं यजामहे सुगंधिं पुष्टिवर्धनम् उर्वारुकविबन्धनात् मृत्योर्मुक्षी ओम त्र्यंबकं यजामहे सुगंधिं पुष्टिवर्धनम् ओम झुं सह सहजुम् ओम उर्वारुकविबन्धनात् मृत्योर्मुक्षीमामृतात् स्वाहा ओम त्र्यंबकं यजामहे सुगंधिं पुष्टिवर्धनम् ओम झुं सह सहजुम् ओम उर्वारुकविबन्धनात् मृत्योर्मुक्षीमामृतात् स्वाहा ओम त्र्यंबकं यामहे सुगंधिं पुष्टिवर्धनम् ओम झुं सह सहजुम् ओम उर्वारुकविबन्धनात् मृत्योर्मुक्षीमामृतात् स्वाहा ओम त्र्यंबकं यामहे सुगंधिं पुष्टिवर्धनम् ओम झुं सह सहजुम् ओम उर्वारुकविबन्धनात् मृत्योर्मुक्षीमामृतात् स्वाहा ओम त्र्यंबकं यामहे सुगंधिं पुष्टिवर्धनम् ओम झुं सह सहजुम् ओम उर्वारुकविबन्धनात् मृत्योर्मुक्षीमामृतात् स्वाहा ओम त्र्यंबकं यामहे सुगंधिं पुष्टिवर्धनम् ओम झुं सह सहजुम् ओम उर्वारुकविबन्धनात् मृत्योर्मुक्षीमामृतात् स्वाहा ओम त्र्यंबकं यामहे सुगंधिं पुष्टिवर्धनम् ओम झुं सह सहजुम् ओम उर्वारुकविबन्धनात् मृत्योर्मुक्षीमामृतात् स्वाहा ओम त्र्यंबकं यजामहे सुगंधिं पुष्टिवर्धनम् ओम झुं सह सहजुम् ओम उर्वारुकविबन्धनात् ओम त्र्यंबकं यामहे सुगंधिं पुष्टिवर्धनम् ओम झुं सह सहजुम् ओम उर्वारुकविबन्धनात् मृत्योर्मुक्षीमामृतात् स्वाहा
Nithyananda Paramashivam Om 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 Nithyananda Paramashivam.
Why are Hindu gurus abused by Indian media? Media is a business with business interests. Billions of dollars are poured into all areas of media, cinema, and so on. That has a major impact in the economy. Media and advertising is obviously directly related to big lobbies, which influence organizers and politicians, who directly impact the judiciary. Media is directly involved in big economics, global trade, and international government systems. 99% of Indian media is foreign-owned. So the owners of billions of dollars conglomerates have their own specific business and ideological interests. And it's no accident that they are sustaining multi-billion-dollar companies for decades on end. There must be a strong ideological underpinning for making shrewd business decisions in order to sustain these huge multinational media corporations. And many of the media corporations in India are directly owned by those ascribing to specific religious traditions that explicitly state theirs is the only path to reach God, the only acceptable, the only allowable way to live, and any opposition must be converted or even killed. This is no secret, it's quite common knowledge. One God theorists do not have a built-in framework to incorporating other traditions, and in fact implore that all others must either be converted or killed eventually. The Joshua Project website is sort of one of the more tame examples of the meticulous and enormous scale coordination and research that has gone into how 14,000 different so-called people groups across the globe have been analyzed as to how they can best be infiltrated and converted. We see these same ideological interests are also owners of the Indian media. Now, moving to Hindu gurus. Avatars, incarnations, enlightened beings of Sanatana Hindu Dharma are not elected by anyone, nor are they self-styled, made up by arbitrary rules. They are born and nurtured by enlightenment ecosystems. They are consciousness like all of us, but the enlightenment ecosystem nurtures them to flower as enlightened beings, free from the usual human emotions and problems that we all get caught in. So, the conscious sciences that people call as Hinduism is a very meticulously documented ecosystem that ensures conscious, liberated living is provided to every incarnation of consciousness, meaning every human being. This simply is not the aspired to end of the ideological backers of the modern mass media cults. In fact, it is seen as diametrically opposed to their intention, which is to further their own specific interests and to maintain control of the huge global economic system that they are sustaining, and holding it up as a beacon of distraction, hypnotizing everyone out of being strong and centered within themselves to constantly chasing something outside that can be bought and sold but should never give any of the customers lasting fulfillment. So why does the Indian media attack Hindu gurus? In a certain sense, it's like oil and water. The two just won't mix. The ideological necessity of modern billion-dollar mass media conglomerates is to further their own growth and survival, not to ensure fulfillment of all human beings. It's just not in their mission statement. Whereas Hindu gurus stand for enlightenment of all beings, even animals, and beings from other planets for that matter. So Indian mass media just can never swallow people living free from subscription to what they are selling. It just in no way fits their business model. It's not at all compatible with the core of their beliefs. And so Hindu gurus become the antithesis, must be destroyed at all costs, because they are the living embodiment of liberated human life, of conscious living, and the symbol that proves, ensures it is available for others if they just take the red pill, unplug from the matrix, and switch off the TV for a while. So it's literally a death sentence for anyone wanting to brainwash or control others. The Hindu gurus are liberation. In a nutshell, this is the way that it is.
Paramashivam. Om Nithyananda. 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 Paramashivam. Om Nithyananda.
अनन्तं विभुं निर्विकल्पं निरेकं शिवं सङ्गहीनं यदोङ्कारगम्यं निराकारमत्युज्ज्वलं मृत्युहीनं परं ब्रह्म नित्यं तदेवाहमस्मि। अनन्तं विभुं निर्विकल्पं निरेकं शिवं सङ्गहीनं यदोङ्कारगम्यं निराकारमत्युज्ज्वलं मृत्युहीनं परं ब्रह्म नित्यं
जय गुरुनाथ शिव गुरुनाथ ओम जय गुरुनाथ शिव गुरुनाथ दीनदयाळ सच्चिदानन्द शरणं शरणं नित्य गुरु शरणं नित्य निरञ्जन ज्योति स्वरूपा ओम नमः शिवाय नित्याय नमः ओम सदाशिवरञ्जनी नित्य निरञ्जनी मंगल गुरुमाता नित्येश्वरिणी ईश्वर नित्या नित्यानन्दन जय जगत् जगदीशा कमल नयन हे हृदय विहारी नित्य अवतारा नित्य अवतारा नित्य अवतारा
जय शंकर शिव शंकर जय जय त्रिपुरारी जय सुरपति त्रिभुवनपति जय जय असुरारी जय शंकर शिव शंकर जय जय त्रिपुरारी जय सुरपति त्रिभुवनपति जय जय असुरारी जय शंकर शिव शंकर
Divine Holiness, Bhagavan Sri Nithyananda Paramashivam. A very warm welcome to all the viewers of Nithyananda Television, gathered from all over the world, from all walks of life, especially today on this very auspicious occasion of the Dwajarohana, which is the flag hoisting for the Chittirai Brahmotsava, which is the month-long festival which happens in the Madurai Meenakshi Amman temple, in the temple city of Madurai in South India. Devi Meenakshi, Parashakti herself, the divine consort of Paramashiva himself. The first 15 days of this festival celebrates the Pattabhishekam, the coronation of Devi Meenakshi as the queen of the Pandya kingdom, and celebrates her victory over all the worlds, where she engages in defeating all the countries of the world except Kailash, where Paramashiva himself accosts her, and she is suddenly, she receives the sudden, the revelation about her own life at that moment when she is beholding Paramashiva in front of her eyes and realizes that he is her very divine consort. And the festival then enacts the complete divine marriage ceremony of Devi Meenakshi Parashakti and Lord Sundareshwara Paramashiva. This most beautiful and sweet Chitire Brahmotsavam festival is commencing today in the temple city of Madurai, where the great Meenakshi Amman temple is located. And in all the temple monastery complexes, the Sarvagnya Peetams established by Bhagavan, His Divine Holiness, Sri Nithyananda Paramashivam, the Dwajarohana happens today, marking the beginning of this Chittirai festival. And today we are all going to witness live the Dwajarohana, the flag hoisting at Adi Kailasa, the spiritual headquarters in Bengaluru, and of course in the divine presence of Bhagavan, presided over by Bhagavan. So on this auspicious day, when the Meenakshi energy is specially gracing us, blessing us, and as we await the live darshan of Bhagavan for today and the live Nithyananda satsang for today, during which we will also be witnessing the Dwajarohana, we request each of you to kindly share this live feed so as to connect more and more people to this extremely auspicious happening. And may Meenakshi's energy, Devi Meenakshi's energy, shower on each one of us. Let us earn the punya of connecting as many people as possible to the sessions of this morning, which are very special, marking this auspicious occasion. Let us take a minute off to share this live feed. Share it with all your social media groups, friends, relatives, family, and connect as many people as possible to this divine and auspicious occasion. As we all know, our beloved Bhagavan, His Divine Holiness, Bhagavan Sri Nithyananda Paramashivam, is the 293rd Pontiff of the Madurai Adinam, the Shyamala Pita Sarvagnya Peetham, coronated in April 2012 on the 27th in Adi Kailasa and on the 29th in the Madurai Adinam, Shyamala Pita Sarvagnya Peetham itself. And therefore, today is an extremely special day as we are about to celebrate Devi Meenakshi and Lord Devi Meenakshi Parashakti and Lord Sundareshwara Paramashiva. While we are waiting to enter into the further segments of the satsang, please do continue to share the live feed and connect more and more people so more and more people can receive the energy of Devi Meenakshi Parashakti and Lord Sundareshwara Paramashiva. We have been having a series of live satsangs by Bhagavan every single day, while amidst all the celebrations of Hinduism and the great traditions of Hinduism, on one side, the persecution against Hindu gurus and incarnations is continuing. And in the wake of this, a huge clarion call from the side of Bhagavan has been happening through a series of live satsangs, where Bhagavan is on a series of awakening discourses on the subject of Stop the Hindu Holocaust. If, as a global community, if humanity itself does not stand and stop the Hindu Holocaust, the loss is going to be that of each one of us, whoever we may be, whichever class, creed, gender, nationality, religion, because it is the Hindu solutions, which is the cosmic principles, which is the need of the hour today for each one of us to start living. Only because we lost touch with the cosmic principles and started violating them that we have landed ourselves in a global crisis today, which is not merely a coronavirus, but a result of the collective negativity, of the collective violation of the cosmic principles. Therefore, Bhagavan has started this extremely crucial and extremely important series of satsangs on the subject Stop the Hindu Holocaust. Hinduism is not a religion, it is the science of enlightenment and the science of living with the cosmic principles. And therefore, it is extremely important for every individual on the planet Earth to stop the Hindu Holocaust so that the Hindu gurus and incarnations, sannyasis and sadhus can continue their deep sacrifice and boundless compassion in teaching the cosmic principles of Hindu Sanatana Dharma to humanity at large. First, let us listen to what was the gist of yesterday's satsang in the series of Stop the Hindu Holocaust from Bhagavan himself. We have with us Manitya Atmananda Swami, our sannyasi, to give you the essence of yesterday's live satsang from Bhagavan. Nithyananda.
Nithyanandam Bhaktika Swami, thank you one and all. As a series of Stop the Hindu Holocaust, Swamiji has revealed few important things as a responsibility of the humanity, what all we should do. In yesterday's satsang, His Divine Holiness described to all the Hindus the patterns with which the Hindu-phobic, anti-Hindu terrorist criminals operate, function, the cunning strategies anti-Hindu adopt and destroy the Hinduism all over the world in multi-level. First of all, the narrative of the society is usually done by mainstream media cult in entertainment, cinema and television cult, which made our culture and religion as a comedy. The anti-Hindu elements heavily pump money and take over the mass media cult and entertainment cult. More than 99% of both the cults is already in the hands of anti-Hindu gangs. Like how planned they are and how plannedly they are destroying the whole Hinduism. Swamiji had given deeper truths. You can say in every level, entertainment cult, directly, indirectly, and subtly brainwashing everything related to Hinduism, using mass media cult to influence and control people as a strategy used extensively by all aggressive civilizations. Missionary militants are both ganged up on Hinduism and are doing it such a cunningly that even sincere Hindus are not yet realized, not yet woken up to the reality and truth that they are getting destroyed all over the world, not just in India. They are out to destroy Hinduism, the innocent, indigenous, simple spiritual tradition. The cunning strategy by these aggressive civilization succeeding in ending democracy, they slowly bringing dictatorship and eliminating completely the other religion. If Hindus don't wake up and read Hindu history, history will repeat itself. Don't delude yourself by saying Hinduism is eternal and it will be there forever. Thousands of years before, we had 56 nations, Hindu nations, where Hinduism was a state religion. Slowly, we started losing all the land, and today we have no nation. We have the only Kailasa as a Hindu nation, but it is a cosmic nation. It is a borderless nation. It has embassies. A few countries have signed up diplomatic treaty to have embassy. Kailasa is more a nation created to keep the Hindu grand narrative alive. Let us don't think just because some Hindu temples are running and people are going to temples, Hinduism is alive. No. In other religions, every year, at least 30,000 to 35,000 nuns and monks and teachers are graduating. But in Hinduism, hardly handful of people are coming forward. The amount of hatred and hate speech done on Hindu sannyasis, Hindu monks, Brahmins, and Hindu lifestyles after independence in India by the mass media cult and entertainment industry cults has taken away the confidence of Hindus on very Hinduism itself. The Hindu Dharma is the most beautiful science developed for a best stable society. But today, the strategically the anti-Hindu elements have attacked us, even our own Hindus do not have confidence to live Hindu values and our own religion, Hinduism. Even in the literature, in the education circle, we will be surprised that not even 1% of Hindu chairs are all over the world is occupied by practicing Hindus. Making a large number of practicing Hindus and bringing back the glory of Hinduism. Hindus should study full-time Hinduism. Any one branch, Vedas or Agamas, Puranas or Smritis. His Divine Holiness declared that he will be bringing the glory of the past by establishing the model Varnashrama Dharma where responsibilism is encouraged. And the different jatis to do the specializations in particular areas so that those areas will be flourished. And Swamiji declared that he will bring back the Guru Parampara to keep the knowledge safe. With this, His Divine Holiness again reminded to all of us, the Hindu NRIs, to give 2 kids from each family to create a next generation as a Hindus, practicing Hindus, and His Divine Holiness has given a clarion call to choose the enlightenment pill and stop the Hindu Holocaust and revive Kailasa, the most ancient Hindu civilization. With this, Swamiji has led us to the deeper truths will be revealed by His Divine Holiness in the further satsangs. With this, I request Ma Bhaktika Swami to give us the contributions what Swamiji has done to Madurai Adinam, our Shamala Pita Sarvajna Pita.
Thank you, Ma. As we all know, Bhagwan assumed the responsibility of the Shamala Pita Sarvajna Pitam after accepting all the appropriate rites, rituals, Acharya Abhishekam, as per the mother document of the Shamala Pita Sarvagya Peetham, and assumed the responsibility as the 293rd Pontiff of the Shamala Pita Sarvagya Peetham, Madurai Adinam. And it was on the 27th of April 2012 in Adi Kailasa in Bengaluru when the 292nd Pontiff of Shamala Pita Sarvagya Peetham officially coronated Bhagavan as a 293rd Pontiff, and subsequently the coronation ceremony was held most ceremoniously on the 29th of April 2012 in Shamala Pita Sarvagya Peetham in Madurai Adinam itself. And we are now going to see that coronation ceremony that happened in Adi Kailasa and in Madurai. After that coronation started unfolding huge and untiring work from the side of Bhagavan, right from starting to restore the Madurai Adinam from its existing state, and soon hundreds of devotees from all over the world responding to the call of Bhagavan came to Madurai Adinam and stayed there for several weeks, and completely led by Bhagavan himself, the entire operations of right from the cleaning operations that were required to be done to taking care of the temples associated with the Madurai Adinam, the Shamala Pita Sarvagya Peetham, and reviving all the socio-spiritual activities for the people belonging to that region. Bhagavan breathed new life into the very Madurai Adinam, and as one of the oldest enlightenment ecosystems of Kailasa, the Madurai Adinam Shamala Pita Sarvagya Peetham started functioning with complete renewed life and energy. Let us watch the coronation video.
Now we are promulgating an affidavit, a promulgation affidavit of His Holiness, the 292nd Guru Mahasannidhanam, Srila Sri Arunagirinatha Sri Jnana Sambandha Desiga Paramacharya Swamigal. We, the 292nd Guru Mahasannidhanam, Srila Sri Arunagirinatha Sri Jnana Sambandha Desiga Paramacharya Swamigal, also called as Madurai Adinam, Tirujnana Sambandha Swamigal Adinam, and having our headquarters at number 70 South Avanimula Veedi, Madurai, I do hereby solemnly affirm and sincerely state as follows. We hereby declare that we are satisfied that Paramahamsa Nithyananda, also called as Sri Nithyananda Swami, who was originally called as A. Rajasekhar, son of late A. Arunachalam, aged about 34 years, an avatar and spiritual head of Nithyananda Dhyana Peetham, a worldwide vision having its spiritual headquarters at Nithyanandapuri, Bidadi off Mysore Road, Ramanagar district, Karnataka state, is competent, eligible and entitled to hold, administer, manage the entire affairs of Madurai Adinam, also called as Tirujnana Sambandha Swamigal Adinam. We hereby declare nominates, enthrone, coronate, and appoint Paramahamsa Nithyananda, also known as Sri Nithyananda Swami, the 293rd Guru Mahasannidhanam of Madurai Adinam, with a title of is Adinam. Now we are signing in the deponent column.
Nithyananda offered his respects to 292nd Guru Mahasannidhanam by presenting a crown on behalf of Nithyananda Dhyanapeetham.
Anandam Nithyanandame, Nithyanandam Anandam Nithyanandame, Anandam Anandam Nithyanandame, Nithyanandam Anandam Nithyanandame, 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 Govinda Anandam Anandam Nithyanandame, Nithyanandam Anandam Nithyanandame, Anandam Anandam Nithyanandame, Nithyanandam Anandam Nithyanandame, Nithyanandame, Nithyanandame.
the sacred honor, His Holiness Paramahamsa Nithyananda said,
Sada Shiva Samarambam Jnana Sambandacharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. I offer our humble respects, devotion and salutations on behalf of me and the Nithyananda Dhyanapidam at the sacred feet of Srila Sri Arunagirinada Jnana Sambandha Desika Paramacharya Swamigal, the 292nd Guru Mahasannidhanam of Madurai Adinam. And I welcome all of you with my love and respects. With all the humbleness, divine grace, I hereby declare I accept the responsibility given to me by 292nd Guru Mahasannidhanam Srila Sri Arunagirinada Sri Jnana Sambandha Desika Paramacharya Swamigal as the 293rd Guru Mahasannidhanam of Madurai Adinam. Here, I take the commitment of making Madurai Adinam as an international religious organization. And as an immediate offering, I am offering 1 crore rupees at the feet of Swamiji for all the spiritual and social activities of Madurai Adinam. And I also vow in front of all of you, keeping Chokkanadar and Meenakshi and Jnana Sambandha as a witness, we will fulfill all the responsibilities of Madurai Adinam, make Hindu tradition, Shaiva tradition alive, revived, lived, celebrated all over the world.
Yes. Every time Bhagwan takes on a new responsibility in the whole gamut of the Sanatana Hindu Dharma, so much of bliss overflows from him. More responsibility, more the bliss. Like how in yesterday's satsang, Bhagwan was telling us, where he was deeply requesting the global Hindu community to consider having children to send to the Gurukul of Kailasa. And when the fact of the matter is, when more children go to the Gurukul of Kailasa, it is going to be more work and more responsibility for Bhagwan himself. But in that lies the joy and bliss of the incarnations always, because it means that they are fulfilling more and more and more of their avataric mission for which they came to planet Earth. And therefore, the more the responsibility, the more joyful and blissful they appear. Like we just saw when Bhagwan accepted the responsibility as the 293rd Guru Mahasannidhanam, the Pontiff of the Madurai Adinam, Shamala Pita Sarvagnya Pitam. And now we're going to continue to see the sequence of events that succeeded this coronation. On the one side, from day one, Bhagwan started a huge series of operations on the Shamalapita Sarvagya Peetham, starting from a huge cleaning operation. He reached out to the worldwide followers, and almost immediately people flocked in, the followers flocked in from all corners of the world, not to miss the opportunity to be with Bhagwan himself in the Madurai Adinam, Shamalapita Sarvagya Peetham, and offer their services, their seva, in the grand restoration process of not only the Madurai Adinam building, but all of its associated temples. The 4 temples associated with the Madurai Adinam in Tirupurambiyam, Kachanam, Kanjanur, and Pannagathiril. Beautiful Shiva temples in all of these 4 places. So a very grand revival and restoration operations, spearheaded, led by Bhagwan himself, started soon after the coronation. And not only that, completely free food, Annadan, and the medical camps, free multi-speciality medical camps. And once again, the serving of the Jnanapal, the milk of enlightenment, which Tirunjana Sambandh, that the great Indian saint himself drank from Divine Mother, Devi Parashakti, and a host of socio-spiritual services Bhagwan started executing in Madurai Adinam. And people started thronging, the people of Madurai started thronging the temple monastery complex of the Madurai Adinam. And continuously, they were receiving the blessings of the 2 pontiffs, the 292nd and Bhagwan, the 293rd pontiffs of the Madurai Adinam. Let us watch Bhagwan's untiring efforts and contributions within such a short span of time as soon as the coronation completed. And even while the contributions had started, on the other side, the anti-Hindu elements and the atheistic elements caught wind of what was happening, and it came across as a huge threat to their very existence that one of the oldest temple monastery complexes of Hinduism was being revived on a war footing, literally. And what happened while the contributions were going on one side was started a huge persecution against Bhagwan and his followers, sannyasis, disciples, and devotees. Let us watch both of it, the huge contributions on one side and the Hindu Holocaust that started getting systematically executed on Bhagwan and his followers in Madurai Adinam, Shamalapita Sarvagya Peetham. I invite our sannyasi, Manita Sadashiva Priyananda, to present the contributions of Bhagwan's untiring efforts at Madurai Adinam, starting from grassroots levels.
Nithyanandam, and thank you to all of the viewers for this opportunity to be able to present the contribution, the untiring and unparalleled contribution of His Divine Holiness. As Maha Bhaktika Swami had explained, in April itself of 2012, His Divine Holiness was coronated as the Guru Mahasannidhanam, the Pontiff of the Madurai Adinam, after which he inaugurated a series of an effort of unparalleled activities for the entire city of Madurai. Just as how Meenakshi and Sundareshwara had envisioned Devi Meenakshi and Sundareshwara, both incarnations of Paramashiva and Parashakti, had envisioned the life around Madurai Adinam and how it was before with the enlightened lifestyle. That was what His Divine Holiness had revived continuously and revived in the Madurai Adinam. I request the NTV team to project a series of pictures and slides that we have prepared to show all the viewers the immense amount of contribution that His Divine Holiness has done, centered in the Adinam, for the thousands of people who live around Madurai and who are dedicated and devoted to the Madurai Adinam. His Divine Holiness started at the very first level, giving free food, free nutritious vegetarian organic food to the people of Madurai, the surrounding villages, and anyone who comes to the Adinam. At least 2,000 people were given food every single day. 2,000 people flocked the Adinam and were served free food. They had been given this opportunity, as it is in the Upanishad itself, to create and share food with no rules and no limitations, how much ever they ask, until there's no hunger, hungry stomach. As it is told in the Upanishad itself, Swamiji revived that tradition in the Madurai Adinam with every day continuously having Annadhan, the free service of nutritious food. So, as you are seeing now as well, His Divine Holiness spearheaded the ambitious and much needed revival of the ancient temples and mutts that are associated with the Madurai Adinam. The first example of which you can see is how he himself volunteered and started the service, cleaning the cobwebs, cleaning and entirely renovating the Kanjanur temple. You can see that at that time, much of the temple was unable to be taken care of, to the point where the vahanas, the items, many of which had become used and old because they were not taken care of properly. For whatever reason, for much of the intervention by anti-Hindu forces, the temples were not being able to be taken care of. And that is why many of the items, the atmosphere became extremely old, dusty, to the point where even to be inside the temple, you needed to wear surgical masks and protective gear. His Divine Holiness employed, and the volunteers, hundreds of thousands of volunteers who had come to the Kanjanur temple and the Madurai Adinam from all over the world. And he brought them, led himself the work to clean the entire temple and bring it back and start the renovation work. As you can see, he himself is guiding the team, guiding the Stapatis, guiding the construction team and the volunteers team in how the temple should be maintained, in what all should be maintained. Actually, the Kanjanur temple had long been undergoing construction work in the main Gopuram as well, and this was taken up with full speed again by His Divine Holiness. Here you can see the volunteers who are there, who are continuously cleaning the cobwebs, cleaning the accumulation of dust, everything which has unfortunately been accumulated in the temple because of it not being taken care of. And these are the different types of renovations that His Divine Holiness started in the temples associated with the Shyamala Pita Sarvajna Pitam. Not only that, in the Madurai Adinam itself, His Divine Holiness started the renovations, including painting and reconstruction of the windows, doors, much of which had been undergoing a lot of damage, of accumulated damage. And he had the followers of HDH volunteered to do this work and do this seva in order to completely revive the Madurai Adinam and the associated temples, in order to create the atmosphere for people to live the enlightened lifestyle which His Divine Holiness continuously role modeled and inspired others to live. These are some of the construction work that was going on. Not only that, His Divine Holiness had blessed restarting giving the divine Jnanapal as Tirtham to all of the visitors of the Madurai Adinam. More than 2,000 people had come to the Adinam every single day when His Divine Holiness was there and physically there working. And for each person, they waited in lines to just receive the sacred Jnanapal blessed by His Divine Holiness himself and given. This tradition was started just ages ago, and before now it is revived once again. As you can see, people were just standing in line, standing in queues, just waiting for receiving the Jnanapal, which was a tradition that now His Divine Holiness had revived once again. Now you can see, as per the tradition in the Upanishad of creating and sharing free food, nutritious, organic meals, over 2,000 people were served food in Annadhan every single day. They were welcomed, sat in lines traditionally, and were able to eat as much as they would like every single day as they had come to the Adina. Here you're also able to see the guests who are served in the traditional banana leaf. His Divine Holiness had inspired the work of giving these essentials, free food, the prasada from the temple, the Jnanapal, free food, and medical necessities in the Madurai Adinam. Not only had he given these meals for free at any time, whenever people visit the Madurai Adinam, but he had also started the multi-specialty medical camps in the Adinam, and these services offered care for diabetes, care for blood pressure problems, and including dentistry and dental problems, dental issues, every different kind of basic care, and as well as spiritual healing and so forth, was all offered to the people completely free of cost. His Divine Holiness even had doctors being made available, certified doctors, in order to give their expertise, the diagnosis for whatever ailments these people have. And not only that, the equipment needed, such as ultrasound and other equipments needed for diagnosing these different ailments that people have, was also provided. All of this completely free for charge for the people who came and needed these services. In order to teach to the entire living surroundings, to the civilization that lived in Madurai, His Divine Holiness also started continuously offering the basic level programs and inner awakening. He had offered the ASP and NSP Anandaspurna program, Nithyananda Spurna program, and many acharyas, sannyasis had taken these programs free of charge in the Madurai Adinam. And not only that, he himself gave Sarva Darshan to anyone who had come to the Adinam at the time. When he was giving Sarva Darshan, he would listen so caringly to each and every person's to their burdens, and promise that he would bless them and relieve them of all of the tension that they are experiencing in their lives, or whatever suffering that they're experiencing in their lives. Every morning, His Divine Holiness had given a spiritual discourse or Mahasatsang to not only the visitors in the Madurai Adinam, but on a global scale across the world to hundreds of thousands of people who were logging in order to witness His Divine Holiness. And then after the satsang, he would provide the Sarva Darshan. Each and every individual who physically was there, he blessed them, personally met them, and gave them whatever boons that they wanted. In this way, he fulfilled and began the transformation to the ultimate enlightened lifestyle to so many different people, to thousands of people. His contribution was recognized by not only thousands and thousands of people, but also the leaders of Hinduism, many other leaders of Hinduism. In fact, the Akhil Bharata Mahasabha leaders and Hindu sadhus from this entity had come to the Adinam and had given a press meet in order to voice their support and applaud the work of His Divine Holiness. I request the NTV team to project those photos as well. Yes, thank you. As you can see, with the press who had visited the Akhil Bharata Hindu Mahasabha leaders and sadhus from this entity, even including the president of the entity, whom you can see in the left-hand side, had come to the Adinam and recognized the work of His Divine Holiness and voiced out how much work he has been doing, what all he has revived in the Madurai Adinam and for the people of Madurai in this kingdom which was there. In this, leaders of Hindu organizations had all come together in order to declare their support of His Divine Holiness as the Pontiff of as the 293rd Pontiff of the Madurai Adinam. And in fact, actually 53 prominent Hindu organizations, including the founder of Hindu Makkal Kachi and the other Hindu organizations, their extreme support in what His Divine Holiness had started and revived in the Madurai Adinam. This gathering was held in order for all the Hindu leaders to gather and to voice their support in the work of His Divine Holiness and how to continue it forward and how to protect the work of His Divine Holiness in the face of so much of persecution by many anti-Hindu forces and many invested forces against Hinduism. Another esteemed sadhu as well, the Atma Chaitanya Maharaj of the Tiruchendur Adinam, had spoken out as well on the work of His Divine Holiness. Like this, hundreds of sadhus, esteemed leaders of Hinduism, in this time, just within 2 months of being coronated as the Pontiff of the Shamala Pita, Sarvagnya Pita, the Madurai Adinam, within 2 months, so many people had come forward, voiced out their support, and voiced out how much work had been done by His Divine Holiness, and inspired by him. Thousands of people attended and worked in the Madurai Adinam in order for the revival of the enlightened lifestyle which he had started. After all of this, it was extremely shocking and a clear persecution by anti-Hindu forces when several media associated people and violent gangs had started attacking His Divine Holiness and the sannyasis of His Divine Holiness of the Nithyananda order. Ma Bhaktika Swami can also now go into exactly how the persecution happened, specifically in this time, specifically against his work, and in order to stop his work in the Madurai Adinam.
Yes. As always, the moment the actual revival of the Hindu Dharma and the Hindu solutions start, the anti-Hindu elements start the persecution as well. This we have seen ever since the year 2000, when Bhagwan declared his public mission for humanity to establish Kailasa, the only Hindu nation. So once Bhagwan's contributions, his untiring effort and work, and his ability to inspire the people towards their higher spiritual growth and the continued socio-spiritual activities that he started in full swing through the Shamalapita Sarvajñapita Madurai Adinam. The moment he started the operations, the anti-Hindu elements and atheistic elements started executing extremely malicious, extremely dangerous, and as always, life-threatening attacks, assassination attacks on Bhagwan, his sannyasis and sadhus. Like we just saw, in spite of 53 Hindu organizations coming together to pledge their support to Bhagwan in his assuming responsibility to Shamalapita Sarvajñapitam, in spite of that, the persecution started and could not be stopped in a way that we would think it would be possible. That is the whole might of the ongoing Hindu Holocaust, and therefore started a series of false allegations against Bhagwan and a series of petitions being filed by the anti-Hindu elements demanding the cancellation of the very appointment of Bhagwan as the 293rd Pontiff of the Shamalapita Sarvajñapitam. There is once appointed as per the original rites and rituals as prescribed by the mother document of the Shamalapita Sarvajñapitam. There is no provision to cancel the appointment. It is irrevocable even by the appointing pontiff. In spite of this being a very well-known truth and fact, and in spite of it being produced several times, the false cases mounted and the malicious false complaints started happening against Bhagwan. An individual named M. Jagatguru Pratapan, used by the caste supremacists, filed a fresh false complaint, launching and continuing the lawfare against Bhagwan, demanding that he be removed from the position of the 293rd Pontiff of the Shamalapita Sarvajñapitam. Once the lawfare started, again, all over again, Bhagwan and the sannyasis, disciples and devotees and followers were subject to attacks from all 360 degrees and quarters unknown. By then, it was 2 years since the first major attack had happened in 2010. It was 2 years, this happened in 2012. Yet, there were a lot of surprise components, and the viciousness of the entire attack, the malice of the entire attack, still took the whole organization by surprise. Because what would one expect? Bhagwan, who only serves humanity either through free food or powerful spiritual initiations or powerful cognitions, the great satyas and truths from the Paramashiva Jnana and Vijnana, or the continued humanitarian services on the other side in terms of the free medical camps and free counseling, free spiritual guidance, and a host of socio-spiritual activities. So what would one expect when from the side of Bhagwan, it has been a saga of huge effort and no stopping whatsoever is given to him in return. It was least expected that the persecution would happen again. In the Shamalapita Sarvagya Pitam, the Madurai Adinam, where Bhagwan was the pivotal center point of the host of socio-spiritual activities continuously being given to people. Every single day, Bhagwan would deliver the Nithyananda Satsang as he is delivering today, sitting in Shamalapita Sarvagya Pitam, and following the Satsang, he would personally attend to each and every person who had gathered there, and each of them would bring a handwritten paper where they would have written their list of grievances in their own life, or asked for spiritual guidance for major decisions in their life, or asked for spiritual healing for the diseases they're suffering from, for physically, mentally, and spiritually. Bhagwan would attend to every single person, however long it took. You are seeing in front of you, the numbers started increasing every single day. And Bhagwan, whatever time of the day it took, would patiently stand by each one and read the entire handwritten piece of paper and give them the boon, the blessing, and the initiation that was required for them. And only then conclude the everyday morning segment. And people started gathering in huge numbers as the news spread about the huge benefits people were experiencing from the healing touch of Bhagwan, and from his powerful cognitions, and from his powerful initiations, the meditation programs. The numbers started increasing, and the persecutors had to step up their operations. They started filing more and more false complaints, as you are going to see. Every single false complaint became more bizarre and completely baseless than its previous one. And in spite of the 292nd Pontiff, the Guru Mahasannidhanam, kept calling for press conferences and addressing the ongoing persecution, the lawfare against Bhagwan, he kept clarifying that it was an appointment that was done, and there was no question of revoking it, and there was no need to execute lawfare, and to please steer clear from the Shamalapita Sarvagya Pitam. In spite of his repeated requests, the lawfare continued. And individuals, advocates, were used as instruments by the anti-Hindu elements. And under different names, different false complaints were filed. And the single prayer was to remove Bhagwan as the 293rd Pontiff of the Shamalapita Sarvagya Pitam, which could never be done because the very mother document of the Shamalapita Sarvagya Pitam very clearly mentions that once appointed, as per the tradition, the rites and rituals, there is no question of revoking, even by the appointing pontiff. But the pressure was created by executors of the lawfare, and finally, they pressurized to such an extent that undue cases started being filed by the government itself against Bhagwan, and started putting pressure on the 292nd Guru Mahasannidhanam, the pontiff of the Shamalapita Sarvagya Pitam, through a host of false cases, started mounting the pressure on him to falsely declare that he is cancelling the appointment, although everyone knew that it could never be cancelled. And ably supported by the mass media cult, which created its false narratives by then, the anti-Hindu elements started stepping up their operations and attacks. There was no limit to the absurdity and falsity of their complaints. They started accusing Bhagwan of storing tiger skin inside the Shamala Pita Sarvajna Pitam. And not only that, as you can see now in front of you, the complaint that tiger skin was being stored inside the Shamala Pita Sarvajna Pitam caused even a raid to happen of the premises, which was like how we have been discussing the past few days and weeks. Mindless raids have been conducted and reported by the mass media cult without presenting the fact of the matter and why and how the raids were ordered, just based on a completely baseless, false complaint by the anti-Hindu elements. These raids were conducted, causing huge inconvenience to Bhagwan and the 292nd Pontiff and all the followers who had gathered there in large numbers to continue the restoration and revival operations of this very important enlightenment ecosystem of Shamala Pita Sarvajna Pitam. And the absurdity of the narratives, false narratives of these complaints reached its peak when a particular complaint was filed claiming that, and when he went there, he was personally served what you call the tirtham, the holy water infused with intoxicants. And it was served to him by none other than Bhagwan and the 292nd Pontiff himself. And the complainant, the false complainant, had reached an inebriated state. And while he was in that state, the complaint says, Bhagwan and several women there were in compromising positions on beds made of wet tiger skin and elephant tusk. I don't have to mention the absurdity, the malice, the brutality, and the complete, I'm at a loss of words, the complete absurdity of this complaint. Just based on this complaint, inquiries happened, which was more shocking than anything. Instead of the complaint being tossed out, this hugely absurd complaint was entertained and investigation was done. And the false complaints started mounting. Every single false complaint had the same prayer: to remove, to eliminate Bhagwan as the 293rd Pontiff of the Shamala Pita Sarvajna Pitam. As always, the focus was elimination. And that became more obvious than ever, because the anti-Hindu elements started supporting their false complaints with any amount of absurdity in their complaints to the authorities. And therefore, Bhagwan and his followers had to be prepared for any surprise from any corner. And yet, amidst the lawfare that was going on against Bhagwan, the socio-spiritual services of Bhagwan continued. And then the operations were stepped up. What happened was the anti-Hindu elements started physically assaulting Bhagwan, his sannyasis and followers, anywhere and everywhere, wherever they were engaged in the restoration work and the revival work of the Shamala Pita Sarvagya Peetham. You can now see Bhagavan continuously on the move from the word go. From the time he was coronated, he started executing his responsibilities as the 293rd Pontiff of the Shamala Pita Sarvagya Peetham. And you can now see this short video where Bhagavan is visiting the Kanjanur temple that belongs to the Shamala Pita Sarvagya Peetham, the Madurai Adinam. He is visiting the temple with so much of bliss and enthusiasm and a huge plan in mind, a vision how to restore the temple. He, along with the 292nd Pontiff, embarked on a huge trip to visit each and every property belonging to the Shamala Pita Sarvagya Peetham to see how it can be revived and made fully functional to re-establish the enlightenment ecosystem. Let us watch this visit to the Kanjanur temple by Bhagavan.
शिवने नित्य अरुणाचल शिवने अभयं तந்தம்மையாட்கொண்டிடவே अभयं தந்தம்மையாட்கொண்டிடவே கருணையால் உதித்தவனே नित्य अरुणाचल शिवने अरुणाचल शिवने नित्य अरुणाचल शिवने अभयं தந்தம்மையாட்கொண்டிடவே अभयं தந்தம்மையாட்கொண்டிடவே கருணையால் உதித்தவனே नित्य अरुणाचल शिवने त्रेदयिल् माणिक्यं द्वापरतामिरमाम् उयर्द्वापरतामिरमाम् कलियुगम् उय्य अरुणाचल इंद कलियुगम् उय्य अरुणाचल तिरु मलयन எழுந்தவனே नित्य अरुणाचल शिवने अरुणाचल शिवने नित्य अरुणाचल शिवने अभयं தந்தம்மையாட்கொண்டிடவே अभयं தந்தம்மையாட்கொண்டிடவே கருணையால் உதித்தவனே नित्य अरुणाचल शिवने உன்முகம் சென்றதில் அன்பு மலர்ந்திட ஆனந்தம் தருபவனே நித்ய ஆனந்தம் தருபவனே கல்மணம் தாண்டியும் என் முகம் நினைந்திட கல்மணம் தாண்டியும் என் முக்தியளிப்பவனே நித்ய அருணாச்சல சிவனே அருணாச்சல சிவனே நித்ய அருணாச்சல சிவனே அபயம் தந்தம்மையாட்கொண்டிடவே அபயம் தந்தம்மையாட்கொண்டிடவே கருணையலுதித்தவனே நித்ய அருணாச்சல சிவனே
Yes. While Bhagavan is seen here overflowing with bliss in continuously visiting all the temples and the other places where he needs to start executing his responsibilities as the 293rd Pontiff of the Shamalapita Sarvajna Peetham. On the other side, the anti-Hindu elements were continuing the false complaints, the lawfare against Bhagavan. And it started becoming physical assaults very soon. You can further see that once the sannyasis, followers and disciples started engaging in very visual revival of this enlightenment ecosystem of Shamalapita Sarvajna Peetham, of renovation work, improving the hygiene conditions, and legally removing the land grabbers, the property grabbers who had grabbed the lands belonging to Shamalapita Sarvajna Peetham, and ensuring that no encroachers are found on the properties of Shamalapita Sarvajna Peetham. While all this was being ensured by Bhagavan and his followers, devotees and disciples, it irked the anti-Hindu elements and they stepped up their operations. You can now see in front of you how the physical assault started. The sannyasis were few in number and the attacks were huge. In the Kanjanur Agnishwara temple that you just saw, a group of 100 people beat the sannyasis and escaped, smashed their vehicle. This happened on the 29th of May 2012. The vehicle was smashed and the sannyasi and the devotee were almost beaten to death, and the attackers escaped as always, and the sannyasi and the devotee were left all alone to recover and go for help, both medically and legally, to the police station, because only legal recourse was available again and again through the sannyasis. Yes. And continuously during these attacks, Bhagavan and the 292nd Pontiff met the people and continued to clarify. They met the press and continued to clarify and explain the kind of persecution that was executed on them But it was to no avail, as the entire persecution was heading in a completely different direction. You can see here the innocent assassination attempt, a brutal assassination attempt at that, where just two disciples are being completely beaten by the attackers. Their car is smashed, the vehicle is smashed. And after completely damaging property and life, the assassins just walk out of the campus. What right does it give to kill another life, or to even intend to kill another life? This is exactly what we've been hearing from Bhagwan. Ahimsa, non-violence, is so important. Bhagwan has been telling us through the everyday morning satsang in the series of Stop the Hindu Holocaust talks that non-violence is the only solution for the future. And you can see in front of your eyes how such deep violence is being meted out to innocent sannyasis, Hindu sannyasis. A mob lynching in front of your own eyes on two young Hindu sannyasis. We can't help but go back to the lynching and brutal murder of the Kalpavrikshagiri Maharaj and Sushilgiri Maharaj, the two Hindu sannyasis, the Mahants of the Juna Akhada, just barely 6 days earlier. How, on the 16th of April, in a very similar fashion to what we are seeing now, happened in Madurai to the sannyasis, the same thing, the same strategy was applied to Kalpavrikshagiri Maharaj and Sushilgiri Maharaj. How they were surrounded by death calls. Let us watch once again, so we wake up to the striking similarity in the science of persecution and Hindu Holocaust. The science of persecution of Hindu gurus, incarnations, sannyasis and sadhus, and the Hindu Holocaust. If we arrange all the brutal assassination attempts and assassinations of the Hindu gurus, incarnations, sannyasis and sadhus, the very science of persecution will stare at us on our very faces. You can see here a 70-year-old Kalpavrikshagiri Maharaj pleading for life. He is being beaten to death. He died in just a few minutes from what you are witnessing. And the worst of it was the police stood, fed him into the hands of the assassins and watched and waited till the death of the two sannyasis happened. This is the second Sushilgiri Maharaj, 35 years of age, fighting for life amidst the police and the assassins. And the police is wriggling himself free every time Sushilgiri Maharaj tries to cling on to him for protection. a truly gory scene and astonishing scene where the authorities of protection are no more playing their roles, and we are orphans who can face death any moment. And now, if you watch once again the happenings at Kanjanur, what happened to the sannyasis, the young sannyasis in Madurai, you can see the furious assassins charging towards the place where the sannyasis were living, and they are inside the premises of the Shamalapita Sarvajñapita Madurai Adinam. They are huge in number compared to the two sannyasis and advancing on them with so much of fury and muscle power. All of this only for contributing to the people through socio-spiritual services. The lives of innocent sannyasis and the great incarnations are taken by these assassins. And by the time the assassins back off, the entire damage is done. You can see now what happened to those two sannyasis, to the sannyasi and the devotee, who were attacked by this furious group of anti-Hindu elements. They were left to fend for themselves with their car smashed. They went for legal recourse. No action was taken on the complaints. You can see here in front of you now the damaged vehicle of the brutally attacked sannyasi. Two of them versus hundreds of attackers, as you just saw. And here you can see in front of you the way their vehicle has been smashed, and they were hospitalized, and immediately Bhagwan and the 292nd Pontiff of the Shamalapita Sarvajñapitam, both of them rushed to the hospital where the sannyasi and the devotee were admitted. They lay motionless, and you can see Bhagwan here giving them the assurance that he is on the top of what is going on, attending, taking care at every dimension, and assuring them, giving them healing. You can see Bhagwan passing energy, giving energy healing to the sannyasi and devotee, and assuring them that he is taking care of whatever needs to be taken care of. Pathetic scenes from the Hindu Holocaust. What does one
Nithyananda Paramashivam Om 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 Nithyananda Paramashivam.
Yes. Sorry for the technical glitch. Simply because the anti-Hindu elements recognized that Bhagwan was on a very rapid pace reviving the enlightenment ecosystem of the Shyamala Pita Sarvajna Pitam, the Madurai Adinam. They struck again and again. The relentless persecution continued on Bhagwan, the 292nd Pontiff, as well as the sannyasis and sadhus. And it was extremely pathetic to see how continuously Bhagwan was giving back to the people the huge benefits of the socio-spiritual activities, of healing, of meditation programs, of powerful cognitions through satsangs, of sarvadarshans where you could personally meet him and give him your personal grievances through a handwritten letter and he would attend to it, while he was continuously showering through the enlightenment ecosystem of Shyamala Pita Sarvajna Pitam. He and the sannyasis were continuously persecuted. The same pattern of persecution from the side of the anti-Hindu elements and the same pattern of selfless and courageous service from the side of Bhagwan and his sannyasis and followers. You can now watch what Bhagwan gave to the people and what he got in return. Of course, the great incarnations, knowing what they're going to get in return, repeatedly come to execute the mission on the planet because they know that they are the only hope to humanity. So while the anti-Hindu forces come into play, theirs is to move on in their service, in their hard work and sacrifice, tyaga, and continue to deliver what they came for. While we go back and forth between the contributions, the unparalleled contributions in such a short span of time from Bhagwan and the brutal persecution that was executed in Madurai on Bhagwan and his sannyasis, it stands completely paradoxical. And not only that, going back to, I think there was a small technical glitch while we were on the attack of 30th of May 2012, where yes, while Bhagwan and the 292nd Pontiff were on their circuit of untiringly day and night, visiting the temples and associated properties, which are the responsibility of the Pontiff of the Madurai Adinam, Shamalapita Sarvajna Peetam. The assassins tracked Bhagwan down in his circuit and attacked the vehicle he was traveling in. And they surrounded Bhagwan's vehicle, and they were just literally half a foot away from him. All sorts of weapons, and along with that, footwear were hurled at Bhagwan, and the assassins actually even spat on the two pontiffs. It was a gory scene, and one could not imagine the amount of violence, hatred, hate speech that was happening in front of our eyes. And while this was going on, in the vehicle that stood behind, where the followers were traveling, they were dragged out of their vehicle and beaten up by the assassins in front of the police as usual. And you can see here the two innocent followers who were involved in the physical assault from the assassins and the police. And you can see the amount of chaos and unrest and deep fear psychosis that is created as a result of such an attack. It is all too familiar a scene, especially for Hindu gurus, incarnations, sannyasis, and sadhus. And this young devotee was actually a monk in training. He was already on the path of brahmacharya, a Hindu monk. And this is the treatment meted out to him. Today, he is a successful sannyasi after enduring all of these life attacks. But on that day, when his life was attacked, he could have easily slipped and taken a decision to run away from the whole persecution. But he chose to stand up and endure it, face it, purely by the grace of his beloved Guru, Bhagavan, and Bhagavan's powerful cognitions and powerful initiations that he continuously gives his disciples and followers. You can see here the young monk on the training is being treated like an object. kicked around, beaten, thrown to the ground, hurled to the ground by the police themselves. Who can explain this scene? How can anyone at all explain this scene where the so-called protecting force is actually attacking the innocent monk in training? It is too scary to witness and too obvious where the Hindu Holocaust is heading. And widespread protests started happening, and this was supported, of course, by the mass media cult, as the entire system works in synchronicity between the different components. One component being the physical assaulters, the assassins, and the other component being the mass media cult that supports the entire operation with its false narratives. Who is the media to say Nithyananda can't be chief of Madurai Adinam? What sort of journalism is this? While the mother document of Madurai Adinam very clearly mentions that once appointed through the rituals, it is irrevocable, the appointment to the Madurai Adinam. And on the other side, the 292nd Pontiff is explaining to the press media in the initial days on how it cannot be revoked. But of course, adequate pressure was put on him and he was forced by the anti-Hindu elements to fulfill their malicious intentions. But in the midst of this, what gives the right to the mass media cult to concoct such false narratives, such as Nithyananda can't be chief of Madurai Adinam? On the one side, lawfare, completely baseless. On the other side, Bhagavan continues his undaunted efforts and deep love for the people. And on the one side, he is continuously facing huge assassination attempts. Amidst all of this, the Hindu gurus, incarnations, sannyasis and sadhus are continuing their divine work. And you can see here what bliss Bhagavan radiates in being able to serve the people of that enlightenment ecosystem of Madurai, the very own ecosystem of Paramashiva and Parashakti. Leaving no trace of remorse or pain at the ongoing persecution, Bhagavan, enduring all the life attacks on him and his sannyasis, continues with his vision, with his avataric mission.
மாலை சாற்றினாள் தேவி ஆனந்தேஸ்வரி மாலை
Amidst the continued persecution, the lawfare on one side, and the brutal assassination attempts on the other, and the hate speech from the mass media cult on one side, amidst all of this, the service through the enlightenment ecosystem of Madurai, of the Shamala Pita Sarvajna Pitam, continues till date. Even though an order was passed, succumbing to the mounting pressures of the anti-Hindu elements, that Bhagwan should no longer enter into the temple, the Madurai temple, or the Madurai Adinam. His services through the enlightenment ecosystem of Shamala Pita Sarvajna Pitam continues till date. Even amidst the coronavirus situation, the sannyasis at the Shamala Pita Sarvajna Pitam are offering the annadan, the free food, to the people. The sacrifice of Bhagwan can never be told. The hard work and the unstopping, relentless service to humanity continues. You can see now the services of the Shamala Pita Sarvajna Pitam, the activities, the socio-spiritual activities to keep all the traditions alive, to keep all the traditions of this ancient enlightenment ecosystem alive, the original purpose for which it was revived and re-established amidst the persecution. You can see here the sannyasis of the Shamala Pita Sarvajna Pitam, personally trained by Bhagwan, continue to upkeep the traditions. And here you can see them. They are the members of the Rajavidya Gurukul of Shamala Pita Sarvajna Pitam, undergoing the beautiful traditional training that existed once upon a time in the enlightenment ecosystem of Kailasa, that existed not only in Madurai, but in so many parts of the world as Kailasa. You can see here the beautiful temple elephant as part of the ongoing ceremony, coming to receive the what is called the Mandagappadi, which happens during every temple festival when the main deity comes onto the street to go in a sacred procession. The devotees of the Lord offer the Mandagappadi with due respects. And you can see here in Madurai, in the Shamala Pita Sarvajna Pitam, the sannyasis are so authentically conducting the temple rituals regularly and radiating as the hub of the enlightenment ecosystem of Shamala Pita Sarvajna Pitam. It is through these continued rituals, traditions, combined with the power manifestations that happens through initiation. You are seeing here in front of you one of the young sannyasis, an initiated disciple of Bhagwan. Bhagwan has initiated him into what is called the Akashic readings, which is in the cosmic archives of the cosmos, the past, present, and future of every single happening in the cosmos is recorded. And through initiation from an incarnation, it becomes possible for the disciple to harness these cosmic archives and answer questions of seekers from these cosmic archives itself. The questions from seekers to these initiated disciples could be personal questions to do with their own lives, or questions to do with any global issues that are capturing the attention, or for that matter, questions from any walk of life. The answers are there in the cosmic archives. And these initiated disciples, through the power of the initiation, manifest the power of Akashic readings and deliver the answers directly from the Akashic records to the endless queue of people standing in line to receive the Akashic readings, the answers directly from the cosmos itself through these sannyasi channels. It is one of the greatest services offered by Bhagwan, where the seekers all over the world, the common public, are so desperate today to receive answers as life solutions for themselves directly from the source, instead of through other means, through their horoscopical readings,